Hello, everyone, and welcome to Talking Horses for this Saturday edition. I'm Maggie Wolfendale, pleased to be joined by Sarah El-Badwi. And Sarah, we have a 10-race card today. That's why we're on a little bit earlier with New York Stallion Series stakes totaling $1 million in purses for these New York sired 2-year-olds.
And I like seeing how people are really taking a shot at these races with the big purse money on the line. You see a couple of first-time starters, some maidens going in there, and it's kind of chaos for both of those races.
Oh, sure, and full fields as well.
Yeah, exciting races coming up later on today.
Yeah, so looking forward to it and looking forward to taking you through this 10-race card, competitive fields, as if you want to play along with us or by yourself, that's fine too. Use your Naira Bets account. New members will earn that $200 deposit match bonus when you use promo code MATCH200 when you sign up over at NairaBets.com. We also have a couple promotions going on in addition to the Pick 6 carryover with 32,000 plus in the pot already. It starts in race number 5 today. Pick 6 carryover. We also have middle pick 4s, as we typically do. Sarah, when do they start? I don't know. They're like through the day. Just look at the top of your
Is it in the fourth
form.
race today?
Yeah.
I
always lose track when we jump around with numbers of races. But we also have a Los Al Futurity bonus. Make sure you opt in over at NairaBets.com. Bet 25 on the Los Al Futurity and earn an extra $20 on those win wagers. Also, a $20 bonus coming your way when you play Aqueduct and Tampa Bay Downs. Just bet 100 at both tracks and you get that $20 bonus, win or lose. Again, don't forget to opt in. Also, the cross country pick 5. This has been really fun, and this is the 4th one that we'll do so far in the season with us in Oaklawn. We'll start here with both of the Stallion Series stakes, and then we'll have competitive fields from Oaklawn in their 7th through 9th race, including the Tinsel Stakes. It begins at 3:10 Eastern Time. Make sure you check out and you can follow that cross-country pick 5 on America's Day at the races, which coverage beginning at 2:30 p.m. all on Fox Sports 2. So, Sarah, let's get into it here. Race number 1, maiden special weight, going the 6 furlongs. And we'll begin by talking about number 3 in here, Live Happy. We have a replay for him. And he kind of ran sneaky well in the debut, despite at $87. And then just a disastrous beginning. He rears up. Then, as it typically happens, horses that break slow, they open themselves up to get bumped, to get cut off. That's what happened. This race more dominated forwardly. And to me, he was the only horse to make up any ground.
And I don't think I've ever seen a starter lift both of their legs up in the air to try to avoid what was happening with
They're
the horse.
athletes too.
I know, it was pretty impressive. I had to watch that one a couple of times and try to slow it down to see what really happened with this horse at the beginning, because he was so severely compromised at the start. And you have a horse that went from 87-1 on debut in a race where horses have come out of there and run well since, 4-1 next time out. So clearly people wise to what kind of ability he might have, and then just totally eliminated with that kind of debut. So he's the horse to beat to me, and I used him second. You picked him on top.
Yeah, and 2, I like the fact that he did show pretty quick speed first time out. So you would think with solid break, hopefully that behavior doesn't become a habit, that he'll break forwardly yet again, and he already has shown that there's some ability in there. You've gone to the first-time starter, who I saw schooling for Eddie Barker on Thursday, and this is an incredibly good-looking son of Uncle Mo, who only sold for the $23,000, and Eddie telling me that he actually just kind of had a cosmetic thing going on with his knee. Nothing, serious. They scanned it, let him have time to heal it up. And he did work 10-2, mild urging, just kind of a methodical type of breeze in that OBS sales workout. But since then, the breezes coming in here show a quickness.
Exactly. The works have been very sharp for this horse, and while this isn't necessarily a barn that you think of as having live first-time starters or horses that are this short of a price on the morning line for those horses that are making their debuts, I think the works really do point to this one being fit and ready to go in here. And I'm glad that you mentioned that workout and the sale price subsequent to that, because it's kind of a red flag. I mean, when you look at how much for this horse sold as a yearling, $75,000, and then a fraction of that when going at the OBS sale. You might wonder what's going on. So now that you've kind of cleared that up for me, I have even more confidence with this horse going forward.
He was schooling with a group of 2-year-olds. I think they were fillies, to be fair, but he looked like a 3 or 4-year-old against, that field that he was schooling with. And two, there's precocity
pedigree
in the family, as well as just being some good horses as well.
Exactly. A foal to Lost Raven, who was a 5-time winner, who won a Grade 3 and then earned over $350,000 in her career. There's a half to a couple of winning 2-year-old first-time starters, as you mentioned, so plenty of precocity here. And I mean, this is just a barn that, again, when you have those horses that are going out for this barn that are this short of a price on the morning line, I know it's also relative to who else is in this race, but certainly one that I thought was worth taking a look at, and just all signs point to this one being a runner.
Both of us kind of against number 4, Ridgewood Runner, who to me, Sarah, what I could gather now in his 5 career starts, and don't get me wrong, he was beaten by a good one in Sierra Leone, who would run second in the Remsen next time out. I feel like he's a horse that needs the lead to run effective races. And for me, if Live Happy shows the speed, you would have to think also Have You Heard is going to be quick. And who knows with the first-time starter that it's not a confirmed thing that he's going to get the lead. And what were they doing last time, not going to the lead, going a mile last time?
I think with him, too, you look and see who he's faced, but when he's faced the better horses that we've seen go on and really run the faster races over time, he doesn't run as well against them. He runs well against the horses that have kind of run okay in certain starts, Hall, Bilal, but those are not the better horses that he's been facing. So I think that relative to the company that he's kept, he's shown up against the horses that may not be as competitive down the line. So I thought that with 2 horses that seem to make a lot of sense to me and you as well, this is one that I'd try to beat in this spot.
To be fair, this might not be a very strong maiden special weight either, in his defense. As we'll move on to race 2, which was pulverized by scratches, all 2 logical horses coming out of here. Sarah, you were braver than I. I scratched into Bargaining Power. Look, I actually had him below the 2 Compromiser in here, but now with the scratches, it just feels as though
Isn't he the speed?
He's the speed. I mean, I don't know what they do with Grand Again. Grand Again could be quick, but I don't think he's as quick as Bargaining Power. I don't trust Bargaining Power, but with the scratches, I had to land on him.
And this is a horse that I liked quite a bit last time, as he was one that was going into this sloppy sealed going here for the $40,000 tag, and he was first off the claim for Linda Rice, and he ran fine. I mean, he was forward in this spot. You thought that he was going to be able to get the win this day at a short price, but Collect from Ike able to run him down. I mean, he improved a little bit, but nothing that we had never seen before, as he had run a 67 Beyer speed figure in the past. Now he drops again in class, going from the $40,000 to the $20,000 tag, and I think his job got a little bit easier with the scratches of Burton Way as well as Motivo towards the outside. And for the horse that I ended up picking on top, you don't get the same kind of price, so it's a little bit less appealing. But this is a horse that I've liked quite a bit in the past when he was cutting back in distance, and one that was like, okay, this is a horse that is by Munnings, and there is some turf pedigree on the dam side, so I get why you'd want to start there.
Yeah.
But it wasn't really working out, so I liked him doing something new in going a sprint distance on the dirt, because that's where this sire has the most success. So he ran kind of okay at a huge price that day, 34-1. I think that the company that he's been keeping, when you looked at this field with the drops in class for some of the other horses, maybe didn't quite compete. But now with those scratches in particular, he's run against some horses that have come back to improve. I mean, Blue Plate Special returned to run the same number behind Ski Patrol and 3-0. Bad Larry, Woodside Warrior, they came back and improved quite a bit. He even ran ahead of Kentucky Joker 2 back, who came back and equaled his career best Beyer speed figure of a 70. And
Aula yesterday.
Who won yesterday.
Yeah.
And got a nice speed figure for that, a career best 81 for him. So, I mean, I don't know if he's quite good enough. I don't know that you're going to get a fair enough price now with the scratches, but I like him going a little bit shorter, and now he's taking a little bit of a drop as well, going from the 30,000 now down to 20.
Yeah, I mean, I can't argue with that. You kind of dismiss,
right,
and you dismiss him a little bit because it's been New York bred company. But at the end of the day, you're right. Those horses have come back and run well out of those maiden claimers that he's been in. Now, Compromiser, I flirted with putting on top because his first race of his career makes him a serious player. I mean, facing a horse like Ocean's Reserve, who's going to be a likely favorite a little later on in the card in an open allowance race. Now, albeit that was over a year and a half ago, And his return effort, not great, coming back, going the 6 and a maiden 30 for the first time. But that was a day where you wanted to be forward. Sharpaz got to dictate things on the front end, and he just seemed to be run off his feet a little bit. Now he gets an extra furlong to play with the blinkers on, and a horse that in the past has looked like a really heavy, kind of hefty horse where it feels like you might have to race into fitness. So he was kind of the odd one that might be a better price that I wanted to use too. Race number 3 coming up. Excuse me. Claiming 40 for the straight 3-year-old, 6.5 furlongs. We did see the Jacobson entry come out in here, Sarah. They were, they looked to take some money, though I didn't like either of them. I don't know about you. I mean, Thunderian, okay.
Yeah, I didn't like Presidency at all, but I thought I respect Thunderian enough. I didn't love his last 2 races being taken out of town, but his form on this circuit was okay. I didn't have him on top by any means, but I think that he's a horse that he's one of the more consistent for this barn. Right.
Now, we do see Cup from the inside. We'll check out the effort, 2 back for him, as well as Alternate Reality, 2 back for him as well. They'll finish 2-3, 2 Thunderian in here. Now, Cup is a horse that does like to dict things on the front end. And this day, he was kind of tentatively ridden. For me, they weren't as aggressive as I thought they could have been. And I want to see what they did with him last time and just kind of go for it.
Yeah, I think that that's how he has his most successful way of going, when he is a little bit more aggressive. And I like that that is what happened last time, and he was able to get the job done as the favorite in there and run a similar enough number, going the 6.5 furlong. So I like that he did come back to win out of there and at least showed a little bit more speed. And he just seems like a horse that now, especially with the scratches, is likely to be forward again. And I ended up on the only other horse that I thought would be the one sitting just off of him.
We also wonder what Devil's Key does as well. I know he's turning back, but he's shown sprint speed in the past as well. So I think he'll be forwardly placed. You did go, as you alluded to Clubhouse in here, who ultimately comes out of a very live starter allowance field.
He's just been facing better horses. I mean, this is a logical drop in class for him. And I feel as though he's one that's really held his own since leaving the Todd Pletcher barn. And that's not something we see happen for the most part as they continue to step up in class and run against better horses than they were claimed for. He was claimed for $25,000 a couple starts ago. And since then, I mean, facing better horses in the subsequent start, then he was third behind Payzone and Tenebris. And Tenebris is a horse that he won his last 2, won via disqualification at Laurel, but still ended up getting the job done. That was a very silly DQ behind a huge long shot there. But I mean, then he was a part of a pace that was very hot and ended up coming apart when he lost to Thunderian 2 starts ago. And then I know Colonel Vargo didn't win yesterday, but he was on a decent win streak before finishing 3rd yesterday at Oaklawn. American Law, who had a string of seconditis, even came back to win. So he's just been facing better horses overall, and I thought that he might have a slightly easier time of it than he did a couple starts ago, at least being one that wants to be forwardly placed and seeing only a couple horses that want that same kind of position to his inside.
Yeah, I'm scared of him in here as well. But I ultimately landed on number 5, Alternate Reality, just because I think, for the most part, he has beaten and faced some nicer horses throughout his career so far. I mean, he got a walk in the park, kind of a walkover race last time up at Finger Lakes, very confidently handled by the rider that day. But it also felt like he was kind of trying to save something. So I feel like this horse is kind of coming in with a confidence booster, but yet a lot left in the tank. He is hurt slightly. I think, I wish there was a little bit more speed for him, but there could be, who knows, around here.
Who knows?
Yeah, so he is one that needs to get out of the gate to be effective. Sometimes he doesn't break that slowly, like that alertly. But I just thought they've often, kind of put him in some tough spots that speak to the fact that this is a horse that has some ability. And now facing straight 3-year-olds, claiming 40, I think he makes a bit of sense with Thunderian out. I mean, in this condition, 2 back, he was 2nd.
Yeah, I think those are the 3 that you want going forwards in this race.
Race number 4 is a optional allowance going 1 1/8 here for the fillies and mares. And I don't know about you, but I struggled with this race a bit because we'll start by talking about Copa Girl, who was ultimately flattered when Ain't Broke came back and won very impressively again for Linda Ray, stepping up a bit in class. But for me, Sarah, that poor effort at the 1.125 2 back just kept niggling at me. And she had a compromised beginning here. Yeah, I kind of wanted the head on at the start, but maybe I didn't put that on there. Anyway, she tossed her head at the start, and she kind of went up on the rail. And at the end of the day, Ain't Broke looked like a winner every step of the way. So Copa Girl, to me, I don't love the fact that she once upon a time, when she was running some of her best races, had some early foot. Now in her last two, it's either been a poor start or she just hasn't shown that ability to get forward position. That bothers me a little bit.
Yeah, that's a concern. I mean, I think that when you have a horse that's shown speed in the past and then it starts to kind of fade away, it's never really necessarily a good sign as they sort of change tactics. You want to see it kind of happen the other way. Maybe a horse that wasn't as forward suddenly finds a little bit more forward position. So that's a concern for sure. She's going to be a short price. And I completely get it if you want to take a shot against this one. But with the race that was at 1.125, it doesn't bother me quite as much because she had a little bit of time off since then, and she did come back with an effort that was decent, equaling around her career best, which is around the low 80s. So perhaps something happened in there. I don't know what, but maybe it was just a race that then she needed to go to the sidelines for a little bit, and that was a good field that she was facing relative to this one at Saratoga. I mean, Raging Sea, the only horse to come out of that Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies and do anything going forwards. Just Catherine hasn't run quite as well since then, but
no, she hasn't.
Mariah's feels okay.
Yeah, but Just Catherine was with the track that day, so
she was.
I think that was a flattering race for her.
Right. I think that just in terms of the company that she's kept in the past and how they immediately go into a race going this distance, I don't think they're scared of her getting a little bit more ground. And the horse that I think is going to take money relative to her is the one drawn towards her outside, and she's Mo Bubbly. And that's one that I'm very against just because I think that her races on the dirt have been more of those enhanced type of performances by the racetrack. She got away with setting some fractions that were fairly moderate in terms of how the track was playing. In that race at 1.125 at Saratoga, that was an extremely speed favoring kind of day. So while I think that she can get the distance and be more forward, I didn't want her. I think that she's going to be back kind of on her turf form and those performances that were maybe souped up a little bit by the racetrack.
Yeah, they were souped up by the racetrack, but those are her fastest races, are her dirt races. And maybe, like I said, enhanced by the fact she was facing more turf runners. But I'm not going to let her beat me, especially a Todd Pletcher horse going 1.125 when I have doubts about some of the others handling it. And that was going to be my other point about Copa Girl. Looking at her physically, I know there's pedigree for her to be okay at this distance. She does not look like she wants any part of a 2-turn 9 furlong race. So I went with Paris Style, who I know she beat up on inferior horses when she finally was able to break her maiden in career start number 7. But you go 2 back, and I know the beaten favorite that day, but the form from that maiden special weight has worked out quite well, and that was at today's distance.
She was a horse that was against the racetrack several times. I would think it was 3 times in a row where she was running well against a bias and then finally got the job done very, very easily last time. And you can argue maybe against nobody, but I think that her races where she was running well versus a track that was not very kind to where she was positioned kind of elevate her a little bit and give her a little bit of excuses for not getting the job done until last time out. So I think that she's a horse that's definitely worth using in here, and you'll get a fair enough price on her relative to some others.
What'd you like about Ichiban?
That she can handle the distance.
She's just not very fast at it.
No, she's not. But I think that she will need to take a little bit of a step forward in terms of how fast she's been able to run. But I like that she's dropping in class from the Grade 3 Comley. I get that they tried, given the kind of form that she was in. But, I mean, I feel as though with her, if distance ends up being the great equalizer, I know that she can handle it.
There feels like there's something sneaky about number 5 Ocean Gateway. And maybe she can't run at all, and she's definitely like this slow, plodding type. So I like the 1.125 for her, and her last 2 performances were dreadful. But it almost feels like, okay, they went back to the drawing board. Maybe they figured and fixed something with her. And it feels like she's been working consistently. And like I said, she's not going to light up the track at any point in her career, whether it's the morning or the afternoon, but it's consistent, the blinkers on. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if she jumps up and runs well, although her form wouldn't suggest that.
Yeah, I mean, she needs a career best, but you could argue her one winning race was here at 1 1/8. It was a wet track, but at the same time, then they took her to Pimlico, and then she had a terrible beginning last time out at Saratoga, and then subsequently we haven't seen her. So I could see it, sure.
Race number 5 kicks off the pick 6 with a little over 32,000 already in the pot, and it is a starter allowance. Again, see the defection of a Jacobson horse, as well as another speed type of player in number 6, Sharp As in here. We'll start the discussion by the horse that now looks to be completely loose, and that's number 5, Natural Harbor. And while this isn't a Linda Rice claim from Kentucky, we've seen these horses that have shit from Will Walden, who I think does an excellent job, to her be successful, such as like BD Saints coming up a little later on the Great White Way.
Yeah, and even a horse that he ended up keeping in his barn that ran here the other day, whose name I'm not going to remember, but who had a big performance at Keeneland with kind of that outlier number, came here and won very easily.
Right.
So the horses are running that are coming from this barn, even if they do or don't switch over to Linda Rice. So I think that this is a race where you could make a case for a lot of players in here, and I think it's wide open, but ultimately I just ended up going to the horse that I think was the most likeliest winner. And I know that 86 last time kind of stands out, but it's not as though this is a horse that has numbers that were so far inferior on dirt prior to that, and it's still kind of lightly raced, and there might be a little bit more upside here versus some others that we've just seen a lot of.
I couldn't resist Narciso Dali with the claim to Chris Englehart, whose barn isn't going very well at the moment, but
Ran well last time.
That's the thing, is I actually think this horse is more of that kind of elongated sprinting type. Hurt by the defection of Sharp As, I get it, but wired by Cup last time, was kind of grinding away at things, you know, and gets Lasix for the first time. I just thought he was a little too interesting to resist at, you know, it should be a fair price. I do think they're going to gravitate to Natural Harbor with that last race, with the fact that he looks to be loose in here, which scares me.
What do you think the cobbler's going to do, though, on the front end?
Yeah, I just don't know if he's naturally fast enough.
But I
because
wonder
that
if
was
they're
going
going to try.
Right, they might try and mess it all up and set it up for my horse. No, I'm kidding. But you know, the 1A Borletti, I wonder how much money he'll take in here as he is the remaining part of the Jacobson entry. He has great stats. First off the claim, off of wins in their last start. It wasn't a huge sample, but 4 for 13 with a 278 ROI. And this guy kind of won very easily. So I wonder if he can build off of that effort, which was his first time on the dirt.
He's kind of interesting, right? I mean, he was a horse that had run some pretty good races over in overseas on the turf, and then was coming here. And I think he was entered in a regular maiden special weight, and then ended up scratching, and then he ended up in for the tag.
Yep.
So there might have been some higher expectations for him, and then time goes on and you kind of just want to move along from these types of horses. So I think that he might be a little bit better in terms of class than what it looks like he faced last time out.
Let's talk about number 3, Return the Ring, who used in here, I thought, just a tremendous ride by Dylan Davis last time. You know, he wanted to be forward, and then Dylan saw this 4-horse Pastel percolating and eased him back and just sat there licking his chops. And when he entered the stretch, he was able to tip out and run this field down at a generous, you know, nearly 10-1.
And he started his career with a little bit of ability, right? Winning first time out, then finishing second in the Jimmy Winkfield. And we haven't seen a lot of this 5-year-old, but this was a nice comeback effort off a little bit of a freshening after kind of disappointing in the start prior to that at Monmouth. But I mean, he had run behind the good 3-2 zone in the past, and I think that he's very interesting. I think that he might be a little bit hurt, as you said, by some of the speed coming out of this race, but I agree. That was a very smart ride to kind of realize what was happening in front of him and be able to adjust accordingly. So maybe he could be a little bit more tactical if things don't quite heat up as much on the front end and be able to sort of work out the same type of perfect sort of setup for him.
All right, well, that is the first 5 and the start of the pick 6. We're going to take a quick break here on Talking Horses, and we'll be back with the late pick 5 sequence.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.
Thanks to our friends over at Saratoga Spring Water. Did you get up here early, decorate the desk?
No, I put these up yesterday and they actually stayed.
You know, you are just so prepared. Anyway, they're just beautiful. Anyway, you're dependable, yeah. Race number 6 coming up. It's a late pick 5 here. 7 furlongs, state bred, entry level allowance, and a horse that has been definitely knocking on the door in this condition as of late is number 7, Lock and Key. His 2 races for the Ryerson barn have been very good. I thought the winner, Be the Boss, just had the jump on him last time, where he is well back. But that's the problem with him too, is that he leaves himself a lot to do, Sarah.
He does, and this is the type of race where we saw a lot of speed come out with Bad Larry, as well as even the Revenger, who could have been more forwardly placed. And I think that helps the cause of Warolo, who I thought was a little bit interesting before those scratches, but thought would ultimately get caught up in what looked like was going to be a hot pace on paper. Now things are a little bit better for him and a little bit worse in terms of dynamics for Lock and Key, but he's just been running faster races than some of these other horses lately, posting 281 Beyer speed figures over his last 2 races and running respectably well against some decent horses. I mean, you kind of don't see this happen as often, where horses go through their conditions so quickly, getting that maiden win, coming right back to win the starter allowance, and then being competitive at this level. So I respect him. I think he, in some ways, is probably the horse to beat, but I thought that there were other directions that you could go in, and Amadeus Music makes a lot of sense.
You know what's been fun is that we've actually have not picked the same horse all day, but yet we're being so nice.
Can you believe it?
I know.
It's incredible. Should we be meaner?
Yeah, I feel like there's a mean streak coming. No, I'm kidding. I wouldn't do that to you.
We'll save it for the show.
Yeah, exactly. We'll get
when you
feisty.
pick JK's ticket again instead of mine.
Ooh, bringing up the sore subject. Poor JK was a little upset, rightfully so, with the takedown.
He should have been. I mean,
the takedown.
I think that if he had the rest of the legs and he got DQ'd out of that race, that would have been
worse.
Brutal.
Yeah.
But like, to me, at least, I always kind of
it
feel
was a
little...
justifiable DQ, though. I thought.
I think it could go either way. I mean,
Sure.
I picked the horse that won, so I'm a little bit biased.
Yeah.
But I think it could have gone either way. I feel better when I have a ticket that loses at least 2 legs instead of just missing one.
Oh,
like that.
absolutely.
'Cause then I was never
and then
going
it's
to
like,
win.
it's just a gut punch, I
Yeah.
feel like. Anyway, Amadeus Music just feels like a horse that's trending in the right direction, comes out of a live field, in which Mama's Gold, the 99 Beyer in the next start, was certainly enhanced by the dynamics of the racetrack. But then, I mean, we saw Boys Code come back and post an 80, 4th place finisher with an 82. So
Finally gets a fast track again.
exactly. Now, he handles a wet track, so I don't
Yeah.
know how much of an enhancement that is, but still at the end of the day, it's not going to hurt. So I just thought he was a horse that was trending in the right direction. And maybe it's a factor of how the paces have played out, but it feels like he's becoming a little bit more tractable. He's putting himself in a better position early. I know he doesn't get out of the gate great, but still Manny's kind of taken the bull by the horns and said, you know what, I don't care that you break slow, let's get that forward position.
And I think maybe the scratches help him as well, so that he can be a little bit more forwardly placed without having to use himself up early on in this race. The horse that I went to needs to get faster, but he's now second off a little bit of a freshening and didn't run all that terribly to finish 3rd.
I think I picked him as far as a paddock pick last time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I just thought my man Manny looked like he needed the race, and
Yeah.
I just wanted a long shot that I read was riding at 10-1.
I hope he looks pretty today. But he was kind of in between horses and then lost some position in that race. I mean, he was up close and then ended up being much further back and then took a wide journey to ultimately finish 3rd. So I kind of wonder if he had not lost that position early on, if he would have made the margin of separation a little bit closer. I don't think he
Sure.
was ever winning that race.
No.
But he was a distant third behind both My Man Matty and Icy Flavor.
Yeah, the gap could have been closer.
And that's what I think with him. And so now he's had a little bit of a freshening to come back and race himself into fitness there. And he's been in solid New York bred company in the past. As a 2 and early 3-year-old, there are faster races in his past somewhere. And I think that he could just take another step forward today.
Both of us a little intrigued by Kid Billy, who's a
was so
complete
bad last
wild card, right? He took a ton of money coming back off the
I picked him.
11-month layoff. He reared and it was just so awkward, like getting away. So then Junior didn't really send him, he just kind of took him there. And then he just kind of got really short-strided into the stretch and stopped.
Well, it was him and Engineer Empire that were both coming off those huge
Yeah, and he
layoffs.
stopped badly too.
And I think he runs tomorrow.
Okay.
So now they're both coming back.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if you go back to the debut, he's a big player. And
He's
he
a big
actually
player.
beat Dr. Kraft in there. So.
And it seems like a little less ground's going to be better for him as well. And he's a horse that should be more forward if he minds his manners at the gate this time. So he's a little sneaky. He's kind of he's going to really run well today, or
we'll realize that he's just was never that good.
yeah, or whatever issue kept him away for nearly a year is just too present. Race number 7, allowance 6.5 furlongs. Will today be the day that Ocean's Reserve breaks through this condition? Because he ran so well, albeit with the racetrack last time, but the winner was really with the racetrack, being glued to the rail the entire time.
And this was such a ride by Javier Castellano that was so attuned to the way that the track was playing, because that is not his running style. He is not a horse that has really ever been that forwardly placed.
Oh, he did break his maiden on the lead, though.
We're going back a ways.
So, but it's in there.
It
The
is in there.
capability
You're right.
is in there.
It's not how he's been ridden lately. So for
Yeah.
him to be so attuned to the racetrack, know that you needed to be forward and towards the inside that day. He ran too well to lose in there, but I mean, just got nailed by Power Seeker. And I am of the belief with Ocean's Reserve that he is a true 7 furlong horse, and I don't want him at another distance. He's run well, going a little bit shorter in the past, and it's not like it's not the class of this race, really, and kind of the horse to beat in many ways, posting that career best 91 last time out. But I don't want him at different distances, especially when he's now going to be a fraction of the price that he has been in the past. So I think that you also have some questions about the horse who's going to likely be the favorite if it's not him, and that's Savings Rate, who for Chad Brown, this is something that you pointed out. You don't love those horses that take a long time to get to the racetrack, debuting as a late 4-year-old, almost 5-year-old. And yes, he got the win, but can you really trust what kind of quality he brings into this race of a group of decent horses?
I wanted to puke when he won, because I was like
I wouldn't have
so
said that, but
against
okay.
him in many ways, and I'm like, ah. Anyway, here he comes, rolling down the middle of the track, but that was not. And look, it's not like he faces any killers here per se, but that wasn't the greatest
Comparison
wins.
to that field, I mean,
Especially, yeah.
yeah. So I mean, look, he can win. We both have him second, but
Yeah, I'm not going to let him humiliate me again.
right? Yeah, exactly. I thought Best Bet was a little bit interesting
Right,
for Brad
because
Cox,
they put him in an allowance race off such a long layoff. I thought that was so intriguing.
but then I found a really bad stat for Brad
really?
Cox off 180 plus days at NYRA with non-maidens. He's only 2 for 27 over the past 5
did
years.
very generic and did year plus layoffs, which of course you're not going to get a big sample. On the dirt, he's 6 for 16 with a positive ROI.
Yeah, but I just thought it was interesting here specifically with horses that had not yet that had won a
broken.
race in the past. I was like, well, I don't really love that move for a trainer that has really positive stats overall
For like everything.
for pretty much everything. So
Yeah.
that kind of turned me away from him. And then I went to the horse that I just don't have as many questions about. I think Ocean Reserve is a 7 furlong horse. I don't really trust Savings
You are
Rate.
splitting hairs a little bit with the 6.5.
I know, but it's not quite the same.
Okay.
And then Best Bet with that stat, I went to the horse that's just the consistent one. He can't beat Grooven, but he always shows up, and I don't have the same kind of questions with him as I do with some of the others, and he's going to be a fair enough price. So I went to Kunchen Bridge, who might not be the best horse in the race, but is the one I trust a little bit more.
I totally get that reasoning with him. Race number 8, first of the New York Stallion Series Stakes. It's the girls' turn. And I thought this one of the two had just the lesser exposed form. Oh, we both say on I knew we were.
This is the first
This
time we
might be
agree.
the one that I thought that we would agree on. And it was much more of a guessing scenario because you have horses that have run the races that can win here, but their last or recent efforts haven't been as good. And we'll start by talking about My Shady Lady coming in here. And yeah, like if she runs, you know, her first race, which we're going to watch here at Gulfstream Park, she could win. But
I don't like her at all.
I mean, she scares me because there hasn't been, you know, with Solo Shot, she ran horribly. Now, maybe it's just one of those you put a line through, but why? I couldn't quite figure out why she ran that badly. So at least My Shady Lady has like the numbers staying consistent in that realm. But again, I don't love her by any means. I have her third.
I liked when they put the blinkers on and then they immediately took the blinkers off because it didn't work out. But she didn't come back to the same kind of form that she had run without them. And I thought that equipment change was going to really help her because she had been so keen kind of with them on, and then it didn't make a difference. So for me, that's why I stayed away from her. With this full field of very interesting horses outside of her, I just could not take a horse at a short price that I had some things against. And with Solo Shot, I felt kind of the same way, as she just hasn't really run that fast.
No,
honestly.
and I feel like it was a complete, like, I know she went off as favorite in that debut, but
not much has come out of that race, and it wasn't off the turf race as well.
It wasn't off the turf race, and I'm pretty sure she was entered MTO that day. I could be wrong. I can't remember. My brain's failing me. And then look, she comes up and she certainly compliments herself by winning the Lady Finger, but as you said, not that fast of a race. So it also feels like there's other speed in here. And last time in the Key Scent, she was in a position, albeit not on the lead, but in a good position, and she just completely ran the other way.
Yeah, I'm against both of them, and then we end up on the same horse who comes out of a race where we have seen horses go on to take those steps forward. Dolomite running third in the Demoiselle, improving. Money Grab coming back and improving with a win. Even the fifth place finisher, Scarlet Stream, came back and returned to win, even though she didn't improve all that much. So I thought that she could take a big step forward, being off the pace and kind of wide and making a little bit of a move in there. She was just still so green first time out. So.
And for me, she was the only horse who made up any significant ground because the top three, they ran 1, 2, 3 around the racetrack at the end of the day. And like you said, she was just kind of figuring things out and still green while making up ground on a wrong lead, but running in the end. So I always like to see that. And she looks like a filly that's kind of a bit big and stretchy, certainly typical of her bloodlines, Laoban, of an arch mare that the more ground she gets to cover, the better she's going to become. So I know it's again at the 7 furlongs, but just with the experience, I think that'll place her into the race a bit more. I mean, look, we saw it with Elysian Meadows yesterday. He was so much sharper in his second start for this barn.
Yeah, absolutely. He really improved his position in that race and ran very well yesterday.
You like Book of Wisdom a little bit.
I do. I am not in a position to tell anybody what they should be doing with their horses, but she breaks so quickly, and she hasn't been kind of allowed to go on with that speed that she shows right out of the gate. She
is quick out of there.
She's learned how to rate. She breaks on top. Let her go.
Yeah.
She has the ability to be the one that is in front. Maybe that's not where they want to be, and she's consistently hitting the board and running decent races behind horses that look like they're going places, at least for this kind of division in the future. But for a horse that breaks on top, that has now been so consistent, just let her go and find out what happens, you know?
I'm not her biggest fan. That's all. And she'll have to deal with other horses like Walk With Me. You would think is going to be forward in here as well. So, yeah. But at least, you know, hey, first time we agree with Miss Lau as we turn our attention to the Great White Way edition of these New York Stallion series. And we do have more concrete form to go on. Let's start by talking about BD Saints, who will be the likely favorite in here. And in his 2 dirt starts, he has run deceptively well.
And this was a bad start for him. You can kind of see that he ends up being in last early in this race as he sort of got checked back there, as we'll look at the head on now. And you see other horses kind of come over on him. He has to alter course a bit and then change where he is going. And I thought he just made up some significant ground in this race over that muddy seal track behind El Grande O, who kind of looks like the leader of this New York bred 2-year-old division right now for the same barn. So I just like that he wasn't totally discouraged and giving up in a start like that, where he had to take some kickback, had to overcome the slow beginning in there. And he ran a decent number, a 77 over Agilis the Great, who, while he did not run well yesterday, had been putting together some decent races. So I think that while he has yet to win on the dirt, he's kind of the horse to beat in this spot based on what he did last time. And even his first race on the dirt wasn't that bad either, a 3rd place finish. So I feel as though he kind of just comes in here as the horse that has run the fastest races.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. Now, Brick Ambush, we have heard in many of the write-ups that this is the race that trainer Danny Gargan has been targeting, but I have learned over time that whatever Danny Gargan says, you take the opposite. I mean, he walked into the paddock in the Remsen and said, I've got no shot here. I don't know how I win. And then, there's door knock. But all that aside, I've just always liked Brick Ambush. I thought his first race was really, sneaky good, even though it was a slow figure. And then he came back and complemented it, showing more speed, going the mile. And now turning back to 7/8, I'm okay with that. Yeah, he's posted way outside, but I'll take him. I think he can move forward yet again. Still, somewhat green too in that win that we saw last time out. Now, you've also included a first-time starter, number 3 heavyweight Champ, who worked very quickly, hence the $290,000 purchase price.
That is a lot to pay for a Solomini so far, I would say. Look, this one comes in with some okay works relative to what this one showed at the OBS sale, but I thought this one was a little bit sneaky interesting, and this is the kind of race where, as you mentioned at the top of the show, they are running for good money. This is the kind of spot. Take a shot with a horse that, even if he ends up hitting the board at a little bit of a price, gets a little piece of that purse money, and you see what you have going forward. So time is running out for this year. You might as well get your horse into a spot like this and see what you have. And I just thought that with that workout coming in and not being totally in love with other horses outside of BD Saints and even Brick Ambush towards the outside, that I'd throw this one in the mix.
He doesn't have a great pedigree, though, where I thought the 13 who draws into this race does. Son of Lauban, half to Castle Chaos, who ran 3rd in our grade 2 cigar mile, but as well as Jester's Song, Queen's Masterpiece, all of those multiple winners in here. So he's a little interesting drawing in. You also use number 6, Liberty Central, who's going to have to get more professional, but has run well.
He has. I mean, he needs to take another step forward, but I think that he's just been facing some okay horses, both of his 2 starts, and I thought that he at least ran a little bit better last time relative to his first start. He does not want to go in the gate, and that is a problem, and I think that it's kind of hampering what he ends up doing out on the racetrack. But if he can figure that out a little bit, he just was kind of one of the other horses for me, because when you look at some of the numbers that these horses have run in the past, I don't trust King Freud at all, who comes in with a big number.
I don't either.
Yeah, I don't
We were both so against him, and then he won, and again, the humiliation.
Made us look like a fool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do rapid fire last race. It's a maiden special weight, maiden 30 going to 6 furlongs. And there's some drop downs in here. I ultimately landed on the drop down for Dave Donk Manja, who was wired by Walk With Me last time, who we'll see in that New York Stallions 5th Avenue division, puts the blinkers on, showed good speed, and I just think she could control here for Dave.
Yeah, I had to use this one within my top 4 as well. It just makes a lot of sense on that drop in class. I went to a Chad Brown horse who's dropping. You don't like this horse at all?
No. It's turf. It's turf pedigree. I know Preservationist probably could go dirt, but it looks all turf, and if this horse beats me, fine. But
it's not overwhelmingly turf. I mean, Timbuktu's a better turf horse, but he can handle the dirt competitively enough.
I'm just telling you, my notes literally say all turf.
All right.
But that doesn't mean everything.
It means something.
That's why I couldn't use this horse.
Yeah, that's completely
personally
fair. I mean, he just has good numbers, turf to dirt, maiden special weight to maiden claiming. He's 25%. I mean, 71% in the money. So taking that drop in class, and a horse that was kind of ranked first time out, and I thought that there was enough dirt to suggest that with the class relief, this one could be a little bit interesting. And this is not one of those turf horses that's going to get bet on turf form. This is one of those turf horses that ran first time out, didn't really take that much money, and is going to be enough of a price in here.
Yeah, I don't ever know. I never trust that theory when it comes to Chad Brown horses. A horse we're both against is number 6, High Track, who took all the money at 4 to 5 in her debut. I mean, it was slightly against the track where it was an inside rail, which enhanced P. Mutter Pickles a win, but she was bad as
She
the
wasn't
favorite.
so against it that I could say, oh, it was just the racetrack.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and she was not very impressive in the physical sense of things either. So, guys, are we gonna go through the slate since we went over? Anybody? Okay, let's go through them
yeah.
really quickly. If you want to play today, make sure you use your Naira Bets account. New members earn that $200 deposit match sign-up bonus when you use promo code MATCH200. Also, we do have that Pick 6 carryover starting in race number 5, $32,472 already in the pot. Also, middle pick 4s throughout the card today. We also have a bonus when it comes to Derby prep season. That's right, it's already underway. As Sarah, who won yesterday in the Springboard Mile?
Otto the Conqueror.
Nice.
Apparently a good battle between him and Glenn Gary.
I love it. I need to go back and watch the replay. Bet 25 on the Los Al Futurity today and earn that $20 bonus. Same thing can be said when you bet $100 each on Aqueduct and Tampa. Win or lose, you get that $20. Make sure you opt in at NairaBets.com for both of those promotions. Also, the cross-country Pick 5. Races 8 and 9 here from the Big A, and races 7 through 9 over at Oaklawn, including the Tinsel Stakes. You can go to naira.com/cross-country for all you need to know, and you can catch all of that action on America's Day at the races. Sarah and I on early. We got the MIG, Paula Duca as well, and a little Jonathan Kinchin too. And thanks for joining us here on this edition of Talking Horses. Best of luck, and sorry, Chris, you're coming up next with those reprise of Scratches and Changes.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Aqueduct. Track is fast. Getting ready for race 1. Started the early pick 5. Carryover in the pick 6. Got a cross-country pick 5. Here are today's scratches and changes. Race 1. Started the early pick 5. The 2 is +1. Race 2. Started the early pick 4. Scratch the 1. Uncle Kendrick. Rider change on the 4. Jose Gomez. Scratch the 5, Burton Way. Scratch the 8, Motivo. Race 3, scratch the 1, President Z. Scratch the 1A, Sendarian.